In today's video, I want to speak about which Amazon business model is actually the best. One of the biggest mistakes I see on Amazon is choosing the wrong business models for your skills and current capital and knowledge. It's not because the business model doesn't work, it's because the actual lack of knowledge and position you're in. Just for quick context, my name is Iani. I've been selling on Amazon for a good amount of time now. I work with over 25 brands, managing over 20 million in yearly revenue and million in ad spend. Amazon is all we do, it's our bread and butter, and it's what we enjoy the most. So let's get into the video. Which business models should you start with and what makes the most sense? Now, before we do that, let's break down the business models on Amazon. These are the core models that I've seen on Amazon and actually try. First one, retail arbitrage. RA. What is that? Retail arbitrage means you go to a store, you find a product, and you sell it on Amazon. The key there is that you try to find a product that's of course cheaper and you sell it on Amazon. What is the good and the bad with retail arbitrage? The good thing about retail arbitrage, it's pretty simple. You go to a store and you buy a product and you sell it. Good thing about retail arbitrage is that it's very cheap to start. And not many people do it because people are lazy to even go to the store. That's something that always baffled my mind. And by the way, we did retail arbitrage for about a year. At our peak, we're doing $500,000 in revenue at a very good profit margin. Over 20% in gross margin and over 10% in net margin. Retail arbitrage only. What we started doing with retail arbitrage that I don't see many people doing is you go to a store, you start seeing products that do well. The issue with retail arbitrage is you cannot get enough products. You can get 10, 15, 20 units. What we used to do is go to the managers, establish relationships, and almost make a wholesale order. And we did that with a lot of shops. Now, bear in mind, retail arbitrage has changed significantly. I would use retail arbitrage now more to find products to work with them brand direct. When we were doing retail arbitrage was 2019, 2020, and the whole system was quite different. Retail arbitrage has become more difficult and a lot of the products you can't even sell anymore. So there's a big caveat to there, but it's still a very good place to learn with a very limited capital. With a couple of $100, you can actually start and play. And the key here is to learn how Amazon works. Online arbitrage, it's another one that's very popular. I know people who are doing millions in sales per year doing online arbitrage. The person that I've seen doing the most with online arbitrage is doing 10 million plus in sales with about 10% in margin, which is great. Now, online arbitrage, it's again a very beginner-friendly model. You need a little bit more budget in retail arbitrage because you need to order online, it needs to arrive, so it takes more time. And there's also additional costs, many times deliveries from these suppliers. Online arbitrage is very similar to retail arbitrage, but you do it online instead of physically. You go online to a Walmart, you go online to a Tesco, you buy a product and you sell it on Amazon. The issue with online arbitrage is unless you niche down significantly, it's very difficult to find deals and there's a limit on how many products you can buy. Most of the retailers are now limited on how much you can buy, and many times you need to create more accounts and different accounts and use different VPN accesses just to get more stock. So that's one of the biggest bottlenecks for this model. And also bear in mind, online arbitrage, like retail arbitrage, it's very difficult to exit as a business because there's not much you're scaling. All you're really doing is cash flow and flipping. There's not much of an asset for you to sell and exit. So that's also something to bear in mind. Again, a very beginner-friendly model. Apologies, I had to change shirt because the other one got wet. There was some water that got wet. So let's continue with the video. Another business model that it's very, very interesting is Amazon to Amazon or A to A. And it's exactly what you hear. Amazon to Amazon means buying something from Amazon and selling it from Amazon. I know it sounds too good to be true, but some people do it. I have friends who do quite well, 7-figure and even multiple 7 figures in sales profitably on Amazon. Amazon to Amazon is probably the model I will choose the least because it's quite complicated. You need to understand Amazon extremely well. You need to be very good at creating new accounts and knowing how to source and knowing when Amazon has prices where you can even do a flip. So it's probably one of those ones that I would be very, very tentative to begin because there's a lot of risk involved and there's a big learning gap there. It's very, very complicated. Budget-wise, it does require some budget, probably a bit more than OA or about similar, but it's the skill gap that's a bit more difficult there. And most importantly, it's not exitable either. Then the next one is wholesale, and wholesale is becoming to be a step up. Some people would say it's one of the first models where it's a lot more scalable, which I agree and disagree. All models can be scalable depending on the person who's doing them. Wholesale is retail arbitrage and online arbitrage on steroids. It basically means you buy products in bulk from a wholesaler or distributor and you sell those products. What I like about wholesale is that you start getting closer to brands and to direct brands. You're usually 1 or 2 steps away removed from them, either getting it from the distributor who's directly getting it from the brand, or you're getting it from a wholesaler that's getting it from the distributor. So wholesale is a great place to go to brand direct. Wholesale is also a place where you can buy a lot of stock. If you have good relationships, you can really start getting good deals. The issue with wholesale is that you need to have a lot more knowledge. You need to have more skills. You need to understand Amazon now, because if you don't understand it, it's going to be very expensive for you. Good wholesalers are usually requiring anywhere between 3 to even 10,000 initial orders. So you need to have the money to actually do that. Wholesale, in my opinion, is still not very exitable. I have seen business and wholesale exitable. There is a bit more value there, especially if you systemize it. And it's definitely more exitable and scalable, in my opinion, than from retail arbitrage and online arbitrage, because you can get into the replenishable product cycle. Next one is brand direct or brand exclusive. And this starts to become very interesting. One of the first models where you can really exit. I know people who have exited for millions in these type of models. Brand direct or brand exclusive is when you buy a product directly from a brand, and many times you even get brand exclusive, which means that you speak with a brand, especially with smaller brands, and you're the only one who can sell on their listing, and you don't really have any competition coming on Amazon. Now that tends to happen with smaller brands. With bigger brands, they'll have more sellers where they're selling direct, but it will be still less competition. And most importantly, you're starting to create a relationship between the brand and yourself. It requires a lot more skill. You need to understand selling on Amazon. You need to understand how to actually sell to a brand and convince them to buy from them. You also need to understand listing creation, Amazon SEO, and advertising. You need to have a lot more skills, or partner with an agency that does that. We do work with people who do brand direct, and we help them in that part. And it does require a good amount of skill and knowledge when it comes to Amazon. Also, from a budget standpoint, it's a lot more expensive. I would recommend have 10,000 plus minimum if you want to start brand direct. And more importantly, knowledge. Because if you don't understand how Amazon works, brand direct, it's not for you. And it's slower, because you need to find the brand. You need to speak with them. You need to convince them that you're the guy and you're the person that can actually do better for their brand. But when it comes to exit value, there is exit value in it. Last but not least is private label or PL. And private label for some people is the holy grail. Private label, it's where you source a product from a manufacturer, or sometimes you're even the manufacturer yourself, and you put your own IP, your own trademark, your own product. It's your own product. There's no limit to this, right? You can even go to retail if done correctly. With private label is the least beginner friendly, because you need to understand ads, you need to understand product sourcing. If you understand market fit and even manufacturing, that's a plus, and you need to understand ads as well. So when it comes to knowledge and skills, this is where you have to have the most skills. From an exit value is the biggest. There are brands just on Amazon who've sold for millions and tens of millions, even some hundreds of millions. So when it comes to exit value and potential, it's the biggest, but it also requires the most capital. It's far from beginner friendly. And to start private label, in my opinion, if you don't understand ads, if you don't understand listings, you need 20,000 plus. If you do understand listings and you have some skills, it can be started with less, but overall it's the most expensive to start with and the biggest skill needed. To recap all of this video, and this is the most important part, it's not about the model of selling, it's about what you want to do. If you want to scale OA, it's scalable. If you want to scale RA, it's scalable. It's about what the goals are. If you want to exit for the most amount of money and build a big business, it will be very difficult with RA and OA. You'll probably have to look at private label and brand direct. But if you just want to make some money, some cash flow, so you can do retail arbitrage or online arbitrage. There's no wrong answers here. It's about what you want. For me personally, I would only do private label and brand direct, because from a potential standpoint, for me, those have the biggest potential. I hope you liked this video. A lot more to come of this. Stay tuned.